What's up, guys? This is Coach Gaglione here, and this podcast will finish our trilogy. So so in this series, I want to talk about the books that we have. So right now we have 3 books in our Powerlifting for the People series. So we have the Powerlifting for the People is our first book, and that's for the person that is newly getting involved in strength training. It talks about all the benefits of strength training, kind of dispels a lot of the myths. The second book in our series is the Powerlifting Handbook, which is the nuts and bolts, the practical principles for achieving PRs, the method behind the madness behind our programs, and how we have produced over 70 nationally ranked lifters and over 5 ranked in the world and multiple all-time world records as well. That's kind of for the coaches, for the advanced athlete, and someone that's kind of learning our program and wants to implement our program themselves. So the last book in the series is Are You Ready to Compete? And this book I'm really excited for. I think it's my best book in the series. And I think this one has the potential to make the most impact. I think the Powerlifting Handbook is only really for some select few people. And only really, mainly the people that are going to get the most out of it are going to be other coaches and trainers, which is great. And I think the Powerlifting for the People is, the information in it's probably the most basic, but unfortunately, I don't think that the people that really need to hear that information are necessarily going to buy it, unless you kind of buy it as a gift. So that information is probably the most important and the most basic, but I think that the Are You Ready to Compete book, it's perfect for the novice lifter. So someone's already bought into strength training, if someone's kind of deciding they like powerlifting, they're involved with it, and they're looking to do their first competition. So I believe this book is going to have the most impact out of all 3, and I'm really excited for that. So before we get started, I want to backtrack a little bit, and I'd like to introduce myself if this is the first time that you're listening. I'm Coach Gaglione. I'm the only owner of Gaglione Strength. I've been involved with powerlifting and strength coaching for over 13 years. We've helped over 70 lifters achieve nationally ranked. So that means that they're in the top 50 in their weight class and division. And I want to help you guys get strong. I want to help get more people involved with powerlifting. I want to help build a stronger community. I want to help share the message of strength and the benefits of strength training. So, anyways, so in the third book, it's all about competition. And the truth is, high-level competition is not for everybody. But the cool thing about powerlifting is that there is something for everybody. And you can be as advanced or as aggressive or as recreational as you want with powerlifting. So in the book, I just want to kind of go over some of the key points in it, some of like the kind of table of contents, if you will, and just kind of talk about the purpose of the book, and then again a little bit more about who the book is for. So the first kind of couple of steps, we're going to talk about getting started, and talking about how to choose your first meet, how to choose your federation, and just being completely transparent about this. We go through a lot of different federations, and one of the things that we've kind of always supported since day one, and we are our facility is located in Long Island, New York, and Farmingdale, New York, and the RPS, the Revolution Powerlifting Syndicate, is one of the primary federations here. And we've always supported the RPS since its inception. I want to say that they've been the first Long Island meet, I want to say was maybe 7 or 8 years ago, so very close to when I was just getting started with my business. I believe that their first Long Island meet was at Stony Brook University. And I was at that meet, and it was cool. So that, because I know when I got started in powerlifting, we had to travel to New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and there really wasn't much on Long Island. There was some small stuff here and there, and some of the competitions weren't as well run. We didn't have as much equipment. We didn't have as much great warm-up rooms and venues and things like that. So, Gene and Amy have really done a great job. Now, while I don't think that they're perfect, I don't think anyone is. I do think that if you're in the Northeast and if there's RPS meets in your area, I do believe that they're the best option for your first meet, and I'm going to explain to you why. So number one, they have in my opinion, they have the best equipment, and they have the best safety. A lot of the more popular federations and popular meets elect to use squat stands. And if you're a high level competitor and you want to put your body on the line, I think that's totally fine. But especially for your first couple of meets, I think using a meet that has a monolift with safety straps is the way to go. Just God forbid something happens, the safety straps will help you. I've one of the lifters that you may or may not be aware of, but I've worked with Larry Williams during his powerlifting career before he started doing strongman for about a little over 4 years. And at the U.S. Open, one of the U.S. Opens one year, Larry was on pace to win some money. He was on pace to hit a PR total at 242. And he stumbled with his third attempt. I want to say it was somewhere between 790 and 800 pounds. He was successful with a 777 squat at 242 in just knee sleeves, which was really impressive. Still an impressive squat to this day. But unfortunately, he lost his balance. He slid to the right, and the spotters were not able to grab him. And the weight flew over the top of his head, and he ended up tearing his quad, and we had to pull him out of the meet. And I believe in that case, Larry's injury would have been avoided if there were safety straps. Because, like I said, sometimes, it's not necessarily the spotter's fault. It's just things happen really quickly sometimes with those big weights. And I don't think they were anticipating Larry to miss that weight. Because he kind of handled his second pretty handily. I think we only made like a 7.5 kilo jump from his second to third, so which is not a huge jump for someone like Larry, Anyways, so just using that as an example, I don't want to put words in Brandon's mouth, but like Brandon Lilly is another great example. I think when he hurt his knees the first time at the LA Fit Expo, I believe that there's. I know he hurt one knee and he ended up kind of falling backwards and both his knees came forward. So in my opinion, I can't prove this, but I believe that he would have only hurt one knee and not torn both quads and hurt both knees if there were safety straps present. Again, I don't want to put words in Brandon's mouth, but that's just like another like kind of common example that I like to use where safety straps. And then more notably, I don't believe he was hurt, but I know he didn't have the day he wanted. I know Andy Wong, I want to say, dumped like 880 over his head at the U.S. Open this last year. So, and this is not to knock any certain federation. All I'm saying is that for safety purposes, for your first meet, choosing a federation that uses a monolift with safety straps, I believe, in my opinion, is the way to go. And I do believe that we need to do our part to keep our lifters safe and do right by them. Now, if you want to make the walkout part of the rules, I am totally cool with that. Let's make that. If you want to make that a standardized rule, I won't be competing in a walked out meet anytime soon. I kind of joke that my feet are permanently glued to the floor. As a multiply lifter, I just prefer to use the monolift. But that being said, if for the money meets, if you guys want to walk your squats out, that's totally cool. But all I'm saying is I believe that using a monolift with safety straps is going to be a better option, a safer option for the lifter. So going back to why I like to choose the RPS. Gene Reislak has both all his barbells are the best. The Iron Wolf squat bars are the best squat bar in the market. They have the best Iron Wolf bench bars on the market, and I believe they use Oki. I want to say they use an Oki deadlift bar. I'm not positive. I'm pretty sure, which I like a lot too. It's a sharp knurling. It's a great deadlift bar, and all his bars, he has the same exact barbells and same exact benches and monolifts in the warm-up room as the platform, which is not always the case. So that's great. So that doesn't always happen. So from an equipment standpoint, from a safety standpoint, I really like RPS. And the other reason I like RPS is from a team perspective, you can compete as a team, which is also something that doesn't always happen, which I love that part of it. Not that really matters for your first meet. It's just another perk. And I like that. What was I going to say? We talked about the equipment. You could. There's many different categories that you could lift. So you could lift multiply, you could lift single ply, you could lift drug tested, you could lift untested, which is called Pro for RPS. Elite is the drug tested division for RPS. If you just want to, show that you're a drug free lifter, so you have that option. If you want to set a drug free record, that you have that option as well. If you want to compete in knee sleeves, if you want to compete without knee sleeves, if you want to compete in knee wraps, if you want to walk out your squat, if you want to use the monolift, if you want to get a handoff, if you don't want to get a handoff, if you want to have your heels up on, if you want to have your bench with your heels up, or if you want to bench with your heels down, if you want to pull sumo, if you want to pull conventional, And I kind of joke about that a little bit, but there is a strength lifting organization which doesn't allow for sumo. So I'm half joking, but kind of serious. There are some federations that kind of dictate which stance you could do for your deadlift as well. So from a coaching standpoint, like I said, I have equipped lifters, I have raw with wraps lifters, and I have what we would maybe call classic raw, which is just knee sleeves only. So I like to have the options. People can lift how they're comfortable, and they can lift how they want to, and they can qualify for different meets, and they can have great spotting and they have a great environment. The music is great. I believe that their meets are run really well. They're not too fast. They're not too slow. I think they're just right. So especially for the bigger guys that maybe aren't as good a shape. Other federations can tend to be sometimes too fast, especially for the really stronger lifters. Now, this may not be a factor for your first meet, but again, it's something to consider. The pacing of the meet can be definitely a factor. I do think sometimes the meets can get overcrowded, but obviously he's got to make a living, and we got to kind of pump through, because I'm not the biggest fan of the split sessions, because I do think sometimes the PM lifters get the shaft. So I do want to offer some criticism, not just all the positives. So I think if you're like a PM lifter, that's something to consider, because sometimes the meet might start at 3 and you might not get done till like 8 or 9 at night. So that's something to consider as well for your first meet. But other than that, and again, the RPS, you can get a 24-hour weigh-in, which is nice, so you don't have to starve yourself the day of the meet. So we talk about the choosing of your federation and some of the different rules and guidelines. We talk about the weight classes. We talk about the check-in process. If you want to make sure your equipment is certified and things like that, and you're using legal equipment. We talk about all that stuff and some of the different rules for the different federations. We talk about some game day strategy. We talk about establishing your opening attempt and how you should pick your openers. We talk about how you should pick your second and third attempts based on how you feel. We talk about your warm-up process and how to be prepared for the actual game day itself. We talk about some different guidelines for nutrition and hydration to make sure that you're fueled properly for the day. Especially from a hydration standpoint, I've seen a lot of lifters miss lifts because of cramping and they're sweating too much, and they can't use their hands and their fingers properly because they're cramping so much. We talk about some of the different mindset of competition and just getting mentally prepared, and how to kind of pick out a meet. And then we talk about some of the differences in the rules and some of the rules in the different federations. Those can be very different across federations, and also the standard and the strictness can be different as well. We talk about kind of a little bit of, not too much, but a little bit about programming, kind of getting ready for your meet, and a little bit about goal setting. We talk about the different equipment that might be, we talk about the difference between monolift and squat stands, deadlift socks, and different things. We talk about what equipment is allowed, the difference between wearing squat heels and things like that. We have a kilogram loading chart in there. So that's kind of it. And then we talked about the rules and things like that, and we talk about the benefits of having a coach and the benefits of having a team to kind of get you ready. We talk about the handling process a little bit as well. So a good portion of the book kind of talks about, and then we also kind of just talk about there's some shameless plugs in there talking about if you are local to Long Island. So this is probably as good a time as any to kind of go through that. It's really good to find some meets that are local and convenient to you. So if you're in the Long Island area, we actually cater to the novice lifter in mind. So we will never really have a meet that's more than 30 to 40 lifters. And then usually honestly, a lot of times it's more like 20 to 30 on average. So even our bigger meets might only have 30 lifters. And the reason being is that we don't want you to just feel like a number. So finding a meet that's a little bit smaller for your first one, even if it's a mock meet or if it's an in-house meet at your gym, even if it's not sanctioned, that's totally fine. Just to get your feet wet and just to get practice. It is way different competing in front of 3 judges and competing in front of a crowd. So just to minimize the pressure the most as possible for your first meet is going to be critical. So we kind of go through that. And as far as if you're looking to do your first meet and you are local to Long Island, I want to kind of go through our typical contest schedule. So the next one that we will have is our youth and novice meet, which is designed for lifters that have 3 meets or less meet experience. And then we also it's encouraged that we have like special awards for our youth and our masters lifters as well. So we're trying to get some of the kids involved in something positive as well and give them a positive outlet to kind of work toward a goal. I think that's a really healthy thing for the kids to learn, and we encourage that. So that's usually the first week in December. Our next one will be December 7th. Then after that, we do a deadlift contest in February. We usually do it around Valentine's Day time. It's called I Heart Deadlifting. So a single lift meet is an excellent way to do your first contest because it's super low pressure. You only have to do one lift. Usually the deadlift is the easiest of the three to learn and it has the least amount of commands. So deadlift only is really good for your first meet. The biggest difference between our deadlift couples meet or I Heart Deadlifting contest, we also have guy and girl teams. You don't have to be a significant other, but obviously you could be. So if a man, let's say, if Mark pulls 700 and Nicole pulls 300, their total would be 1,000 for their couples total. So we have a team contest. We like to get people more involved with team and lifting together. So that's in February. And then from there, after February, then our biggest meet is our Summer Showdown, which is our full meet, and that's for anyone, not just novice lifters, but again, we still kind of cap it to like 30-40 people. So the Summer Showdowns are full meet. That's in June. It's usually like the second or third week in June. And then after that, we have a bench only contest, which can be raw or with a slingshot. It's Bench for Boobs in October. It's a charity event. And that's going to be another good opportunity for a single lift meet. So we offer 4 opportunities to compete at Gaglione Strength. You can check out all our events at gaglionestrength.com. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram or you can email me at gaglionestrength@gmail.com. And we also encourage you to check out revolutionpowerlifting.com, or you could search the Revolution Powerlifting Syndicate. I believe they have an Instagram page. Yeah, they have an Instagram page now, so you could follow them. If you're in the Northeast area, I know they also have some meets in Texas, and I believe they might have some in Canada. They might have some definitely all over the Northeast, but they have some in Florida as well. So I definitely highly recommend you check out Shayna and Mark Miller out of Kentucky. They have a great meets they run. So definitely check those out if you're in that kind of southern area. They run an awesome show. So so definitely check out Revolution Powerlifting, or you can check out one of our meets if you're looking to compete. We do believe, so just a little bit just to kind of close out of maybe why you would compete. Obviously, if you have a lot of potential to hit records and all that stuff, but I do think that the cool thing about powerlifting is that it really is you versus you. It can be as competitive as you want, but trying to focus on improvement, I think, is a really important life lesson, and it's a really important skill. Trying to be the best version of yourself, the strongest version of yourself. Being able to work towards a goal and be consistent and sacrifice and put time in and effort and challenge yourself, become mentally stronger and physically stronger. Competing is amazing, and we kind of go through a lot of these mental things as well in the book. But I know for myself, competing gives me a purpose in the gym. It gives me something to train for. It allows me to stay on track. So even if I don't, hit some sort of crazy record, it's allowing me to be stronger and healthy, improve the quality of my life, and just have fun in the gym. And whether I win, lose, or draw, I'm getting a lot of benefit from it. And it's allowing my training to be more consistent. And that's why we really want to promote this third book. We really want to promote getting more people involved in the wonderful sport of powerlifting, because you could really do it. We have lifters that are, our youngest lifter is Josh. He's 14 years old. He just hit the number 1 deadlift in the country at 400 pounds. And like I said, he's just, he's got some natural ability, and we're just kind of pushing him very minimally. We're just kind of letting him do his thing, and he's achieved some great results. And then we have Liz, who is, she's in her mid 60s, and she's, fresh off the knitting club, and, she deadlifted 200 pounds, and she's, like I said, she's almost, getting close to 70 years old, and she's just doing it for fun and for her bone health. And again, she's not really competitive, but she does it for herself. And then we have, lifters that are going to be lifting, we got a bunch of lifters that are deadlifting, 700-800 pounds and squatting 600 and 700 pounds and, all this stuff. So it's an amazing sport. We want to get more people involved. So if someone is getting ready for their first meet, we highly recommend you get this this book for them as a gift. If you're getting ready for your first meet, we recommend this book as a resource for you. Even if you're a seasoned competitor, we go to a lot of meets and we see a lot of great lifters make a lot of rookie mistakes because they're not following these protocols and they don't understand this information. So even if you're a seasoned lifter, I think it's a good resource, and it can remind you some of the basic things that you may have forgotten, just from things like writing your warm-ups down and having your nutrition set up and having your handler ready. We go to these meets all the time, and we see a lot of people that they're leaving pounds on the platform because they're not prepared. We want people to be prepared. We want people to have a good first experience with their meet, so we can get more and more people involved in the sports. The more and more people involved in the sport, the more we can build a stronger community and kind of grow together. So if you want to go to Amazon.com, search Are You Ready to Compete? You can search my chubby little self, John Gaglione, as the author. Let's support powerlifting. Let's support it. We're all in this together. Let's build a stronger community together. So support the program. Buy a book for yourself or for a friend or both if you really want to. If you want to support our program, check out the links below. If this podcast helped you, please give it a 5-star review. It helps other people find us. Thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.